Welcome back to the Geek Fix podcast, a special Thanksgiving edition. Now, the podcast will actually be up on Patreon the day before Thanksgiving, but this is a video that'll be on YouTube for Thanksgiving Day as a special thank you to all the viewers out there. We got more Aaron Sparrow and Star Wars talk.
Nothing that you should be more thankful for than Star Wars right now.
I got my Star Wars swag on right now. I'm excited. Everyone says that Star Wars is saved. Dave Filoni is coming in for the save here, Aaron.
It's great, right? We're finally getting somebody in charge of Star Wars who really knows the property and has produced nothing but stellar work. Oh, wait. No, we're getting the guy that's already been there, that's been doing substandard work, and that just shat out the abysmal Ahsoka show. That's what we're getting. I'm sorry, I was confused.
There are some people with some unreal expectations for Dave Filoni thinking like, oh, yeah, this is a godsend. And I'm going, this is the guy that made the worst Star Wars movie ever in Clone Wars, and he's the guy that did Ahsoka, and he's been there the whole time. Like, what are you talking about? He was doing Rebels. That's the first thing Disney Star Wars did.
Well, I will say that Clone Wars was the worst movie until we got The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. I think those knocked it out of the. But it's not.
As directing and storytelling, Clone Wars is the worst. Zero the Hutt, the first. Do you think Zero the Hutt is gay, or do you think he's non-binary?
Well, I mean, he was in love with Cy Snoodles later in the show, so I assume he's straight. Assuming that Cy Snoodles is female, I don't know what's going on there.
That's definitely the first LGBTQ slug in Star Wars history.
Hutts are hermaphrodites already, so it doesn't really matter. That's how Jabba was able to have a son. It's because they just in a single sex environment they can spontaneously give birth.
Zero the Hutt is what Kieran Gillen would do if he wrote an original Hutt character.
Oh, it would be his favorite character. He'd be like, "Oh, can I write Zero?" Because he would just write Zero the way that he ruined Mr. Sinister, which I was lamenting on Twitter today, making him like an effeminate fop.
Absolutely. So Dave Filoni has a new mission in the Star Wars universe after guiding Rosario Dawson's force-wielding hero into distant celestial realms in the first season of Ahsoka. The writer, producer, director, who started out working alongside George Lucas on the animated Clone Wars show nearly 2 decades ago, has ascended to a new position at Lucasfilm, one that will give him input into all the galactic storytelling going forward. He is the new chief creative officer. Essentially, he's the new George Lucas, because George Lucas did oversee everything about the Star Wars universe. You had to get him to approve it if you want to write a book, a video game, a card game, and all that kind of stuff. It sounds like that's what Dave Filoni is. Do you think he's a good substitute for George Lucas?
Well, judging by the direction that he took Star Wars and Ahsoka, I think that you're just going to see this become Lord of the Rings, this become Willow. You're just going to see him copy all the things that he likes, because I hate to say it, but more than that, I love to say it because it's true. Dave Filoni doesn't create anything interesting. Dave Filoni just takes other things and repurposes them. He's done it with the expanded universe. Now he's done it with Lord of the Rings and with medieval fantasy, with the stupid Ahsoka season that we got. He's like a J.J. Abrams. But without the visual talent. He just takes things. Yeah. I mean, say what you will about J.J. Abrams. The guy can't write his way out of a paper bag. But at least when he puts something up on screen, he can make it visually interesting. He knows camera tricks to keep conversations interesting. You can have 4 kids just having a discussion. Yeah. He can actually do that. Dave Filoni just shoots it straight on, has people fold their arms and stare at each other. That's his big move.
I would like you to emote that you don't care about the scene, please. Yes, and cross your arms while you're doing it.
and we've put you in the volume, both because it saves money and it will actually dull your performance down to where we need it.
Yeah, he does. I imagine this means we're going to get more stuff from the expanded universe or the EU.
More cannibalized stuff from the EU.
But he's going to break it all like he did Thrawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he'll make it terrible.
Man, do you think he's going to get a South Park episode written after him, like the Man in the Hat, as they kind of make fun of how he kind of looks and acts now?
I hope so. I hope that they touch upon his witchy poo wife. Always great to have somebody who thinks that they're a magic witch, married to the most powerful guy in charge of an entertainment company. It's going to be great. No wonder we got Morgan Elsbeth in there.
But you think about Kathleen Kennedy, perhaps the greatest producer in film history, Dave Filoni, the most visionary storyteller in Star Wars history. It does feel like a match made in heaven. You get these two working together, and I just imagine that they're just going to give Star Wars fans exactly what they wanted.
They're going to give Disney what they wanted, which is more tax write-off, because there's certainly no profit to be had in Kathleen Kennedy Filoni Star Wars.
A lot of people for a long time have thought Filoni could be like the savior of Star Wars, but I just never saw it. Like even Rebels, which I enjoy to a degree, because there are some deep cuts, just as far as Star Wars lore and stuff from the EU, like the holocrons and all that stuff making their way into that show. But I would say like 60 or 70% of the show is just filler.
Well, at the inception of Rebels, you had Greg Weisman on that first season to help lay the groundwork. Lucasfilm had brought in Greg, who's run a whole bunch of shows to help lay the groundwork for that. So, Filoni actually had a roadmap before, he took over completely. And that's all I'll say about that. When you're dealing with somebody who can execute things well enough that they've been handed, then Filoni seems like he does okay. But, as a visionary unto himself, as a person leading the charge, I don't think he comes in with any new ideas. I don't think he comes in with any particular talent or anything particularly interesting to say, which is why I think he has to try to cannibalize from the EU. And you see it when he's left to his own devices. He takes these ideas that were great, these ideas that people loved, these characters that were well developed, and he turns them as one-dimensional as anything else that he produces. So you took a great character like Thrawn, who actually needs a smart writer to tell his stories, because Thrawn is supposed to be incredibly intelligent. You can't hand a character like that to a dullard and then expect that you're going to get these great plots, that you're going to get these great stratagems, because everything Thrawn did in Ahsoka was idiotic, because that's the best that Dave Filoni could come up with. So you're just going to get more of the same. People out there going like, oh, this is such good news. I saw one guy who put a GIF up and was like, praise God, Star Wars is saved. And he was not being sarcastic. And I was like, yeah, God, you guys will just hang on to any shred of hope in the in the face of look, the Empire. The Death Star is there. It's got a big Disney logo on it, and it's already obliterated the Star Wars universe, and you're just standing on a rock that's left of your planet waving a little flag going, yay, Star Wars, it'll be good again.
Are you ready for Ezra Bridger to be like the new chosen one?
Oh, no, everything relates to Ahsoka. Ahsoka was the balance in the Force all along. She was the prophesied one. She's the most important character in the Star Wars universe. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get more of this, the Force is female, girl power, making Star Wars into a princess brand kind of shit that has ruined the franchise. So, I don't know what the idea was behind this, that they thought they were going to announce this, and obviously it duped some people, duped some really dumb people, but did they think that was going to make their shareholders go, oh, they're repairing Star Wars by giving a new title to the guy that's already been ruining everything?
Filoni will now work more directly with Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy and alongside Carrie Beck, a veteran producer turned head of development, to originate and shepherd the next generation of Star Wars shows and movies. After spending many years involved in the creation of Star Wars animation, including the Rebels series, he became increasingly involved in live action as a producer with Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. In this new role, it's open up to basically everything that's going on, Filoni said. When we're planning the future of what we're doing now, I'm involved at the inception phase. It's interesting that as Filoni became more involved with the Mandalorian, the less people liked it. Obviously, he was involved with the Book of Boba Fett from the get-go, and everyone hated that. And basically, everything live action that Dave Filoni has touched has been rejected by Star Wars fans.
You'd have been better off giving the franchise to Tony Gilroy, honestly. At least he has produced. Now nobody watched Andor, but the people that did watch it were pretty satisfied with it. People liked Rogue One. The only Disney Star Wars product that's come out that people are still fairly interested in is the stuff that Tony Gilroy has done. That's the only stuff that people don't throw out with the baby with the bathwater. So it would have been a much better move. But I'm sure he's, Filoni, obviously, more politically aligned with Kathleen Kennedy, who still has a job, by the way. Kathleen Kennedy still has a job, despite reports that, she's on her way out. Filoni and Favreau, the Lucasfilm Civil War. None of that was ever true. Everybody fell for it. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, you're getting somebody who's more aligned with Kennedy. He's harried at home by a Kathleen Kennedy-like figure in his witchcraft wife, and now he can go to work and be harried by another harpy. So great job. Star Wars is in great shape. I'm sure this is just a huge boon for the future. And I'm sure everything's going to be flowers and sunshine from now on. You're gonna feel like you were when you were a kid watching the original movie for the first time.
That's how I'm going to feel when I finally see the Ahsoka Baby Yoda, when they finally team up and start fighting the Sith or whatever, because we know that he likes to take other people's creations and ruin them. So I imagine Baby Yoda's not in great standing right now. By the time David Filoni's done with him and we get our little team up, nobody will like the character.
Yeah, we can pull some characters from John Ostrander and Jander Sama's run on the Star Wars books at Dark Horse. We'll bring in Darth Talon. We'll ruin her. Of course, if we bring her in, she has to be more clothed because we can't have anybody showing the goods. Can't have a sexy Twi'lek. Not allowed. Not allowed under Disney Star Wars. Everybody's got to be covered up. Star Wars is dead, guys. It's dead. It's dead. Let it go. Let it go. I've let it go. I don't care anymore.
What if we get Mara Jade? Everyone's been asking for that character since Disney took over. What if we get Kyle Katarn, in actual canon?
If you like any of those things, any of the things in the expanded universe, the last thing that you want is Dave Filoni getting his grubby mitts on them, because he's just going to ruin them. He's going to make them stupid. He's going to make them make the same dumb character decisions that he makes all of his characters make in his nonsensical stories. It's just all about, this would be cool. But it's not cool. It doesn't come out cool ever. So you don't want him touching Mara Jade. You don't want him touching Kyle Katarn. I'm glad that the Mandalorian's show never touched, any of the old school Mandalorian characters. I'm glad they didn't touch Cal Skirata or Waylon Vow or Fen Shisa. I'm glad they didn't touch any of that EU stuff. Leave it all alone. The last thing that you want is Disney desecrating, the graves of the EU.
The good news is I don't think he can do anything with Jason Solo since they replaced him with Ben Solo.
Yeah.
Right?
What a great move that was.
Jason Solo is a pretty good character too.
He's a damn good character. The Solo twins are really good characters, and that whole that whole expanded universe line was great. People complained about the Yuzon Von War storyline, but at least they tried something different. And at least it was like an interesting concept. These bio villains who, they've modified themselves so much that they're not really affected by them. They're kind of like outside of the Force. That was an interesting idea. And that's more than Dave Filoni's ever brought to the table that he hasn't stolen from the EU.
Yeah, speaking of stealing from the EU, do you think they're going to still go forward with this High Republic stuff?
I mean, I think the Acolyte has to come out. I think that there's just too much money dumped into that, or God only knows what the deal with that is. But yeah, I mean, I think the High Republic will go away, but it not until after the Acolyte, is pinched off onto Disney Plus.
Like, that's been their enormous initiative since they took over. Besides the sequel trilogy, was the High Republic creating a new era in Star Wars to go and visit and create new stories. In the last High Republic comic book I read, they were fighting Hutts. I was like, oh, what a new concept. The Hutts?
You didn't read the Galactic Bake Off issue?
No, I
because that's Star Wars, right? Yeah, you want to read about characters in a baking competition. Throw some corgis on the cover, man. Come on, let's really appeal to that female audience.
At the Star Wars Celebration fan convention this past spring, a number of new projects were announced by Kennedy, including a feature film from Filoni that would help bridge the decades-long gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, a space that The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka are already busy filling. Filoni will continue developing his film, as well as exploring a possible second season with Ahsoka while serving in his new position. All the titles from Star Wars Celebration are still in the books, Lucasfilm officials say, including a historical epic about the early origins of the Force from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny filmmaker James Mangold, and a story revisiting Daisy Ridley's Rey. And the fact that wasn't like the first thing that they let Dave Filoni do as the chief creative officer was cancel all these stupid ideas, lets you know it's not going to get better. Or they would have set him up and he'd be like, yeah, that Rey movie, it's off the table. We're not actually going to go back and explore the origins of the Force with James Mangold. We're going to find something a little more Star Wars to explore.
I do not want the origins of the Force handled by any of these hacks. It's like it's not going to be anything good. Like I said, Star Wars is dead. It's dead, and as long as all roads point to the god awful sequel trilogy, then nothing that came before matters. People have checked out. Doesn't matter what you do. If that's where you end up, no one's going to care.
What if you go 1,000 years past the sequel trilogy and start a new era there?
No, don't care, because the sequel trilogy still happened. As long as that is considered part of canon, then this canon is dead.
There's nothing they can do to make you accept it?
No, Not a damn thing.
You accepted the holiday special.
I accepted the holiday special. I mean, I was a kid, and it was only on that one time. Although I did see a VHS of it.
You accepted Battle for Endor.
Yeah, I mean, no, dude, there's nothing they can do to get me back. I'm so over it. I don't care. The sequels are terrible. They've ruined they've ruined the fundamental ideas of the Force. I could just go watch. I haven't even since the Disney stuff. I haven't even gone back and watched the original trilogy, which is something I used to do every year. And I just can't bear to go back and look at it. I've just lost interest to such a degree. And I'm not alone. And that's their big problem. The big problem is the hardcore people like me, the people that spent the money on this stuff, that bought all the merch, all the things that make all these endeavors profitable. A lot of people like me have just walked away and we don't care anymore. So this announcement comes out about Filoni and we just shrug. We're not even mad because it's dead. It's like, hey.
Why get mad when you can laugh?
Yeah, it's like, oh man, they,
they're gonna fix the problem with the guy that made the problem. Genius idea to me.
This is the Disney way, right? Like they brought back Bob Iger. He's gonna fix everything. He's the savior of Disney, and it's like he's the guy who caused all the problems. So you got,
and the big problem really is, Aaron. Just to be serious, is Disney didn't acquire Star Wars to make billion-dollar movies. Obviously, they wanted to make billion-dollar movies, with Star Wars. They acquired Star Wars for attractions at their theme parks. They acquired Star Wars for T-shirts. They acquired Star Wars, to make toys and action figures and things that were going to make them a lot of money, even outside of movies and books and comic books and all that kind of stuff. But because the movie universe isn't working and has driven off so many Star Wars fans, none of that other stuff is working either. And they're actually just like kind of hemorrhaging money on an enormous, what was it, $4 billion acquisition?
Yeah, and when you look at the numbers, it doesn't seem like they've really made that back with the interest and with the amount of money that these movies have cost them on paper. It all looks like they've made a ton of money, but they've invested so much into the Star Wars land, into the disaster that was the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel. If you put all of the Star Wars stuff on a balance sheet, I don't think that they've borne out their investment. It's pretty grim. The Star Wars merchandise is not selling. I mean, the only stuff that sells is the old school stuff. Even the shirt that you showed off, that's an old school shirt. That's original Star Wars. They can't sell anything with the Disney Star Wars stuff. The little baby Yoda blip, that is done. That is over. People are over it. That burned itself out so quickly. Even I was shocked at how fast that disappeared because people were into it for a minute. They can't sell anything. They can't create anything new. They can only destroy what has already existed. And so they bought this brand to have headway into the boys market. And then they turned it into a girls property. And then we're like, where all the boys go?
But it does make sense to hand the reins to a girls property to Dave Filoni.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
He'll do exactly what Kathleen Kennedy wanted to do all along. And that's the problem.
His little cowboy hat, like a wine mom coming back from Hawaii with with a deep suntan. That's when I see that cowboy hat, I don't think cowboy. I just think wine mom on a bender.
Thinking about the losses, obviously they lost money with Solo, but they also lost a ton of money with that Indiana Jones movie. They probably even lost money on Willow. And,
yeah, they definitely lost. Well, I mean, maybe with the tax write-off, they did a little bit better, but by just forgetting that existed completely. But no, they're hemorrhaging money left and right. And the merch isn't coming through because nobody wants merch for a property that they now despise. And, the parks are starting to suffer. People are going.
I don't despise Star Wars. I despise Disney Star Wars. And I do feel like Disney Star Wars despises me back.
Oh, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. Just ask Pablo Hidalgo on Twitter what he thinks of you. And he'll be happy to tell you to, not go spend your money elsewhere like everybody else is doing. We're all spending our money elsewhere. So good job, Kathleen Kennedy. Good job, Dave Filoni. Good job, Lucasfilm Story Group. You guys are doing a bang-up job taking something that was just an icon of American culture and American cinema and just dragging it out into a field and shooting it 2 times in the back of the head and then having sex with the corpse. You disgusting ghouls.
Then hiring Dave Filoni to have more sex with the corpse.
That's right. Now he's in charge.
It's your go.
He's in charge. I love that, and probably the capper to all this is that when I heard the announcement that Dave Filoni was now Chief Creative Officer over Star Wars and he was going to be involved with every product from its very inception, I said to myself, well, I'm glad to see that they've decided to fail just right out of the gate instead of just stumbling around and finding failure on the way.
Now, Aaron, you and I are not done. This might be Thanksgiving on YouTube, but on the Patreon, we've already got another hour and 40 minutes of conversation up, talking about all the things in pop culture. We got our stupid tweet of the week. We're also going to talk a little bit about toys, some comic book stuff, and we're certainly going to be talking about a lot of other bad juju going on with Disney this very week.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. They've had a lot of bad news this week, and they've compounded it by announcing a bunch of things that are even worse news. So it's going to be a good little Patreon podcast. You guys should check it out.